Welcome back, Pokemon fans. Angel of the Night here. We are back again with the Grand Challenge 2025 Part 2, and we're getting into battle number 25. Our opponent here today is going to lead off with a Dragapult and a Volcarona, and we're going to come in here with our Indeedee and our Exeggutor. Now, of course, with the Indeedee onto the field, that brings the Psychic Surge, which allows us to be able to hit two Pokemon at once with our Expanding Force. However, with the Dragapult onto the field, as well as a Volcarona, I think it's probably best that we actually bring in our Cantonian Ninetales here to set up the Drought, so that way we'll be able to outspeed possibly with our ×2 speed and Chlorophyll. However, if we do go for the Terrestrialization here, we should be able to survive a hit from that Volcarona, and as well potentially be able to attack both parties with either Expanding Force or even the Terrestrialization into one of the opposing. So, we're just waiting for our opponent here to decide what they would like to do. I know it's kind of a intimidation tactic here to come in with the whole Drought and the Psychic Terrain. So here we go with the Cantonian Ninetales coming in here and activating the Drought, which activates the Sun, and of course helps us with our Exeggutor. So we're going to go in for the Terrestrialization to Pure Fire, and that should allow us to resist any kind of Bug-type moves or Fire-type moves that potentially could come from that Volcarona. Okay, it's going to go in for the Protect here, obviously to scout to see what's going to happen. Now, the Expanding Force is in play. That should be able to hit onto the Dragapult, and luckily we were actually able to outspeed it here in the Sun, because quite frankly, sometimes those things can be Choice Scarfed. Now, we do lose a little bit of health there due to the Life Orb, and the Dragapult is also going to attack with a Thunder Wave. Now this is going to be able to paralyze the Exeggutor, causing us to lose a lot of our speed values. Now I am locked in to attack with the Ninetales, and of course we are locked in with the Exeggutor here as well. We do have a potential of being paralyzed this next turn, so it's very possible that Exeggutor may not be able to attack. Now the Pokemon that's coming in is going to be Tyranitar, and of course that does take away the Sun and sets up the Sandstorm. Now that would mean that our speed is now removed from our Exeggutor, and as you can see, we did a little bit of damage there to the opposing Pokemon. However, the Expanding Force does not manage to get any damage off to the T-Tar due to the fact that it is a Dark-type Pokemon. We did manage to get out the Dragapult, which is pretty fantastic, and honestly that is usually a pretty big threat of a Pokemon. However, wait until you see the next Pokemon that comes in. If you guys are Gen 5 players, then you will know what Pokemon that is going to be. We'll see here if you guys can guess right. It is going to be Excadrill. Now, of course, with Excadrill coming into the sand, that does allow it to boost up its speed. It's basically the same idea as what the Chlorophyll is doing, except reversed in the Sandstorm for that Excadrill. So we have a couple of options here. We can go in for the Heat Wave, or we can go in for like a Weather Ball, or we can actually go in for another Expanding Force and maybe try to do some damage off onto that Excadrill, maybe even a Terrestrial Blast, anything that we can potentially do. However, I don't think we're going to be able to even outspeed that Excadrill. That speed is so doubled that there's just no way we're going to survive this hit, to be quite honest. That Pokemon has such a high attack stat that inside any kind of a sand-based team, it's a huge threat. Now, of course, the high horsepower here does not make contact with the Exeggutor. We actually managed to go in for the Protect. And of course, there is the Rock Slide coming in from the Tyranitar. Now, it does end up picking up the KO off onto the Ninetales there, which is very unfortunate. Ninetales could have been a pretty good supportive Pokemon, but unfortunately, it's very frail to rock and ground type moves. So that's not really going to help us out here in this situation. Now, we do still have Indeedee, and we also have Murkrow. Now, Murkrow seems to be a good, decent choice here. We can maybe try to set up the Sun. We can maybe try to set up the Tailwind. Try to do something here to maybe change up the way that the battle is going to be. So we actually ended up going for a Prankstered Sunny Day. So I'm hoping that this is going to allow us to maybe outspeed the opposing Pokemon. Now, it looks like Excadrill is still capable of attacking first here, probably due to the fact that we're paralyzed. We do manage to survive a hit, which allows us to get a Terra Blast off here, which is a pure fire type move. but it looks like Excadrill is going to hang on here, and that's because it has a Focus Sash. So the Focus Sash always leaves the Pokemon with 1 HP and doesn't get knocked out. Here is the Rock Slide coming in from the T-Tar here. That's going to be able to get some damage off onto the Murkrow. Unfortunately for my opposing trainer, my Exeggutor is actually still able to stay into this battle. So there might be a possibility that we might be able to survive here. However, our last and final Pokemon remaining is going to be Indeedee, so we pretty much have the ability to go for the Follow Me and maybe a Psychic. We can't really do anything to that Tyranitar if our Exeggutor gets knocked out. So if that is the case, this is going to definitely be the game. So I end up having to go for a Leaf Storm here into the Tyranitar. Now, that is going to potentially drop our attack stat drastically. However, the Excadrill does happen to have that Rock Slide and does manage to get the KO off onto that Exeggutor. So unfortunately for me, that is going to be game. There's really nothing else that I can do here to this Cheetar or Excadrill, even Volcarona. So good game to my opponent. Way to play some Gen 5 there, bud. And if you guys enjoyed that battle, give it a big old thumbs up. Post your comments in the comment section down below, and I will catch you in the next battle. Peace out.